Tingle is a strange figure, but is there something wrong with him mentally? He has problems, we all know that, but his problems are the worst in Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. When you free Tingle from his prison and go to Tingle Tower, you will see a lot of strange things. For example, once you're up in the tower, you will see Tingle's brothers turning the tower without them even wanting to do this. Tingle is revealed to be an incredibly abusive force in the lives of Ankle and David Jr. Ankle begs Link to visit as often as possible, as Tingle routinely mistreats them above and beyond, forcing them to turn this tower. But on days when Link visits, Tingle's mood is way better than when Link is not around. And you can also find a lot of selfish and weird things from Tingle or about Tingle in his cell. He has written stories on the stones in the secret tunnel where the Picto Box is. He says he refuses to give the Picto Box back, even though he stole it. He was trying to tunnel his way out, but you freed him before he could finish his tunnel. He also says he's a reincarnation of a fairy, in multiple games like Majora's Mask and Oracle of Ages. So, he's obsessed about fairies, steals, is selfish, can be very mean, he thinks he is a reincarnation of a fairy and he will do anything to achieve his goal of becoming a fairy. So, what's wrong with Tingle? Well, after some research, I found some very, let's say, interesting things on Tingle his behavior. Have you ever heard of clinical lycanthropy? Well, it's actually a mental illness that Tingle has. Now, you are wondering what clinical lycanthropy is. Well, it's a really rare disease, and also a very weird one. Clinical lycanthropy is a delusional disease. The affected person thinks he can transform into, has transformed, or is a non-human animal. Does this sound familiar? Well yeah, because of Tingle. He shows all the right signs to have this mental illness. Let's start from the beginning. What are the symptoms? Alright, first up, the person has delusional beliefs that they are in the process of transforming into an animal, or already have transformed into an animal at one point in their life, or still are the animal as far as they know. Well, this just fits Tingle perfect. He thinks he was a fairy once, and he still wants to be one again. Does it sound hard to believe? Well, here are some other little tests to find out if he really has this rare illness. First up, a patient reports in a moment of lucidity, or looking back, that they sometimes feel as an animal or have felt like one. Well, this is true in Tingle's case, because he thinks he's a reincarnation of a fairy. So he must have felt like one in one point of his life. And he also has a clear vision on how fairies act and how they look, because of the Kuala Lumpur magic stuff and the clothes. So he probably knows that because of his time as a fairy, I quote. Next, a patient behaves in a manner that resembles the animal behavior. For example, howling, growling, crawling, something like that. Well, yes, Tingle dresses like a fairy, remember? He said that a fairy dresses like he does. And don't forget the Kuala Lumpur stuff. That's, I quote, magic. Probably fairy magic he's trying to imitate. But what causes this rare mental illness? It has been linked to altered states of mind, aka psychosis. But what is a psychosis? And what happens when you have one? Well, psychosis is not a normal thing, as you can understand. And it can be quite scary and weird. It is described as loss of contact with reality. What happens when you have psychosis is that you start seeing hallucinations and delusions, and sometimes even thought disorder. So what this means is you see and think there are things that are not actually there. Your brain is just messing with you. And thought disorder is that you have a hard time writing and reading and also speaking. So the person could talk pure nonsense, for example. You can still talk words, but they wouldn't make any sense. But how do you get into a psychosis? I mean, if Tingle has a psychosis that causes his clinical lycanthropy, aka that obsession of fairies and stuff, it's caused by something, right? Well, there are multiple reasons of getting a psychosis, like drugs, another mental illness, alcohol, medication. But after digging deeper, I found the reason why Tingle has a psychosis, and it explains a lot of his other behavior patterns. Here is another fancy word: schizophrenia. Some of you might know what this is, but let me explain. Schizophrenia is a mental illness and sometimes comes with clinical lycanthropy. And clinical lycanthropy is caused 9 out of 10 times by schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a mental disorder. The symptoms are not normal social behavior and failure to recognize what's real. Tingle is not really normal. He is always a bit of an odd character. Many other people in the Zelda universe call him weird, so not normal social behavior. Check! And Tingle also doesn't really recognize what's real, with his belief of being a fairy and thinking he ever was one. His brother even tries to explain him he's not a fairy, but Tingle just ignores him. Maybe he has even more hallucinations, which we don't know about. Still don't believe me? Well, I don't blame you, it's quite a heavy subject. Here, I will show you some other examples of Tingle's madness. People with schizophrenia often say to be someone else or something else, like a fairy, and yes, fairies count. They also tend to come up with stories and weird plans or organizations, and they will almost always drag family or friends into this plan. For example, with Tingle, his Tingle Tower in the Wind Waker, where he forces his brothers to turn the tower. Or in the Minish Cap, where he uses his brothers to fuse kinstones because he thinks it can turn him into a fairy if he does it right. And one last example to finish it off, walking weird, and by doing so, making people uncomfortable. Just look at Tingle in the Wind Waker, look how he walks. It's strange and unsettling. Oh, and there are way more examples that fit Tingle just perfect. So, to recap on all of this. Tingle is weird, we all know that, but it turns out he has some mental issues. Like schizophrenia and clinical lycanthropy. Clinical lycanthropy because of his weird obsession over fairies and him thinking he was once a fairy. Schizophrenia because of his weird walking, pulling his family into weird plans and organizations that he made up, and his not normal social behavior. And to top it off, he's also selfish and abusive. But that's shown in the Wind Waker games, and it's probably caused by schizophrenia. Hold on a minute, before you go, I want to thank M Productions for helping me make this video. He recently made his own theory, which I helped him with. And I've got a little teaser for you. Just watch.
You know, it's hard to believe that such seemingly insignificant events can tell us so much about Hyrule's history. But is Hyrule really the medieval fantasy land we are all led to believe? Believe it or not, but Hyrule has a hidden dark reality, a hidden truth that has evaded the chronicle.
Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this two-part series I made with M Productions. Don't forget to check out his channel. For the people who don't know me, welcome, my name is Dr.Wily and feel free to check my other videos. Have a nice day!